Welcome back to Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned, where we dive deep into the heartbeat of leadership, purpose, and transformation. Today, we're exploring the power of music as a catalyst for peace, creativity, and change. Our guest is Rick DellaRatta, acclaimed jazz pianist, composer, and visionary founder of Jazz for Peace. His work has been celebrated on world stages, including Abbey Road Studios, and by global changemakers for its ability to inspire, unite, and lead with soul, a thing we like to talk about around here. Rick's mission is more than musical, though. He's redefining philanthropy, challenging outdated funding systems, and inviting each of us to create harmony in our leadership and in our lives. Let's welcome Rick to the show this week. Leading with Soul, a jazz journey into purpose, philanthropy, and peace. Welcome, Rick. So, welcome, Rick, to the Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned podcast. And just so thrilled that you have invested your time and energy with us today. Can't wait to hear more about your story.
My pleasure. I'm so glad just to know what AAA stands for, ambitious, aligned, and awakening. Because I wasn't sure. Because the only time we ever get to hear those words is either if somebody has an alcohol problem
Yeah.
and then it's just two A's, or if their car breaks down, then they call AAA.
We're doing it from a deeper soul perspective.
Much deeper,
Um,
much deeper.
so I mean, we could take this conversation in so many different directions. So your legacy in a single note, if your life's mission had a soundtrack, what would be the one note or phrase that captures your essence?
Enlightenment and empowerment.
Hmm. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I became enlightened and empowered myself when I found out that from touring all over the world as a musician, that music cuts through every single barrier that we've known to mankind, and it does it in a positive way. It unites people, it brings people together. It is a part of every single indigenous culture. It has healing properties, spiritual properties, things that we're not even tapping into in our capitalist society the way we should be. Because if you see, there's something called the story of the weeping camel. It's from the Tibet, and you watch this little documentary, and solve. They have a big problem, and at the end, when they can't figure out anything, they go to the musician, and the musician comes and heals the situation. So my point is, I learned all that. B, I was able to put it into actuality when I witnessed the events of 9/11 from a rooftop less than a quarter of a mile away, and words came out on a page that ended up a poem, which I called Jazz for Peace. And when I tried to live up to the words of that poem that I had written, it led me into basically being able to distribute that empowerment and enlightenment to others, which again made me even more empowered by being able to do that. So those are just two words that come out because those are the words that probably have, when all the dust settles, hopefully stood out the most based on the testimonials that I've received from, the people who have claimed that they were empowered or enlightened by our activities.
That's so incredible. We I think we've almost lost that awareness even of the connection to sound and music to our souls. So for me, anything going on in my life, I go straight to music. And, right now I've got this one song that's been playing on repeat. I play it every single morning before I start my day. And it just moves us in such an energetic and spiritual way. So, your story really fascinated me because of like how I feel about that and how jazz I see like really moves people. So, what did you notice in that shift? Like when you had that 9/11 moment or even other moments since, how have you noticed that it shifts other people?
Well, you know, first I was just gonna say, I wouldn't mind knowing that song. Maybe I should
Mm,
listen to it. Do you wanna tell it? You wanna just
yeah.
divulge it? What is it?
Right now, because it
Yeah.
changes,
Okay.
I have a playlist on Spotify called Feels, and
Okay.
so when I have the moment of the feels coming and wanna be inspired, so right now it's Oceans. Do you know the
Okay.
song, Spirit Lead Me?
Spirit Leave Me is the name of it. I'll have to
Yeah.
check it out. But the
Yeah.
who's you know the artist
I'll
is?
send it to you. Well, this one is
Okay.
Liv Harland.
Okay, send it over. I'll listen.
I
I always like to
will.
see anything that inspires someone else. I
Oh
always
my gosh, on the piano, it would be so beautiful,
I
and
some people do that, and then I learn the song and play it. I've had people send me songs from all over the place, and I play them on these podcasts.
so
So that's why
now
and then
now I'm
I
like, I wish I would have sent it ahead. And my grandmother, who was such an inspiration to me, she up until she passed at 84, she was still playing in, I think it was like 6 different bands. She followed the
wow.
bands, but they were local community groups that would go around to the, she would call them the elderly homes, even though she was like into her late 70s, early 80s.
Mm.
And her she was the piano, and she played the piano and the harmonica at the same time. So I have a deep connection to, like, I may weep when you play the piano, and that's fine. I may weep. I'm ready for it.
Well, in that story I told you about the story of the weeping camel, it's a crazy situation because there's a guy up in Tibet with a camera and he's trying to film the people of Tibet and make a documentary about what their lives are like and way in the middle of nowhere. No one knew anything about these people. So he's doing that. And while he's doing it, this camel gives birth to an albino baby,
Oh,
which
wow.
it will not accept because of the whiteness of the child. So now there's this horrible situation because the camel won't accept it, but the people can't. They need these animals are an integral part of their life,
Mm.
so they can't deal with this baby not living for that reason either. But they need the camel. They need the camel, so they're like trying to keep the camel alive. Won't feed it. They're trying to keep the camel alive with a little like baby bottles, human baby bottles. They're giving to the camel to try to just keep it alive. Anyway, they do everything they can, and when they run out of all of their bullets, they basically say, because you see the closed caption, "Well, that's it. We've got to get the musician."
Mm.
And they get on donkeys, and they travel for days on donkeys because it was filmed in like the 1970s or 60s or something,
Wow.
70s, I believe. Yeah, and they travel for days on donkeys to find this musician, and they find him, and they tell him that, "Look, I'm so sorry, but we got to, you got to come up here and save the situation." And the healer musician has all these little things he packs up on his donkey, and they come up there, and he puts all of these things on the camel, and then he sets up all these other things that resonate with the sound, like when you see a giant bass or a cello that
Yeah.
resonate. He's setting all these things up, and then they pull the mother, who is very reluctant. They pull the baby, who's terrified, together. They put them within, and he plays the violin for like 12 hours until the camel starts weeping. And that's why it's called the Song of the Weeping Camel.
Oh my gosh, that's so magical.
It is, and so that's what we have to realize, and that is that music, we're looking at it from a capitalistic profit sort of thing, and you shouldn't do that. I mean, that's what I was gonna say that's opened up. People are now starting to realize, "Hey, wait a minute. Should we be limiting ourselves to just trying to sell beer with music?"
Yeah. Oh, so well said. And so you founded Jazz for Peace from this experience, which has become this mission driven tour that blends artistry with activism, really. So, what was the moment? Was it the moment on the rooftop that you knew that this work was more than just about the music?
Well, I knew there was more to music than what the average person understood when I started traveling to all kinds of places as a musician performing. I'd been to, like I said, I'd been to that hall
And
in
to
Canada.
Toronto.
I had been to there, but I'd also been to places like, Japan and Europe and Scandinavia. One of the first places I ever went outside of the US to play music was Iceland. So I've
Mm.
been to all kinds of wild places. And so I saw the people and all that. So I knew this was a bigger thing. And I knew that you could reach people through music because, I mean, if I don't know what they would have, I don't know what kind of welcome I would have gotten without the piano, but with the piano, I was getting a big, I mean, I was being treated like family sometimes with these people that I'd never met. And I'm like, boy, music is what's doing this.
It's almost
So
the one thing that removes borders, removes culture. It just becomes about the music is the connection.
it is. And so what I'm able to do is see, I'm able to take music and merge it with a fundraising model that again reaches people who also have things in common that they're not realizing. I mean, a perfect example, if you ever went to jazzforpeace.org/Vegas, you'll see this concert I did in Las Vegas. And first of all, people are like, man, they didn't even know there was any jazz. Well, there wasn't any jazz in Vegas on that till I showed up there. There might be some more jazz now, but it wasn't a big jazz. It's casino. It's
Yeah.
it's Elton John, it's music, but they're like shows. So, anyway, I showed up there with Jazz for Peace, and there were people on a PDF that they showed me, it was like, well, it's a PDF online, but it's, where those booklets, the booklets they give you, the fundraiser with all the sponsors, you turn the pages, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I see these guys in the news, they hate each other." They said they're here tonight, and they came together because of 2 things, because they care about they appreciate what you're doing, but also they want to help the kids. No matter how much they hate each other, they want to help the kids that you're playing for. So my point is, these people have things in common, and with the music and the fundraising, with this model, we can bring them together no matter how they feel about other things. We have common ground for them.
Right. The common ground being the music.
The music and, like I said, the outstanding cause.
Right.
Because Nevada Youth Alliance, right? I mean, if you're a Republican and you don't care about the youth of Nevada, what kind of a Republican are you? And the same as a Democrat. You follow me? So the Republicans, and there should be a third party, in my opinion, because we're blocking the next Abraham Lincoln. But a third party would have been there too if they had one.
Absolutely. We're definitely not going into politics on this podcast, so
No.
but I think the message is everyone comes together as a human. It's just about
Well,
humanity.
and my point is,
Doesn't
there's
have
only two
anything to
parties, but if there
do.
were
Yeah.
five parties, all
Yes.
five of them should
All
be
5 would be there.
a
Um,
better.
so how do you notice that it's shifting that traditional model of philanthropic perspective? Like, what do you notice shifting when you do it from this lens?
Well, I noticed that the people who experience it are forever changed. And the best way to see that is to go to jazzforpeace.wordpress.com. Our website is jazzforpeace.org, but jazzforpeace.wordpress.com. And then just put a /about. And you see these testimonials, they go on forever. You'll never get to the bottom, but you can just randomly bing and just read one. Just pick any one. We don't care. You'll see the same. No matter which one you pick, you'll get the same thing. You'll see their perspective and you'll see how that's been altered. Now, the problem is the other people who haven't experienced it are still, in the same gaslighted situation. But slowly but surely, I mean, I don't know, I've been on hundreds of these podcasts. I mean, so people are somehow waking up. And I did have an astrologer contact me. He said, "I want to do your chart and I want you to Then he had me on his podcast after he did all of his astrological work. And he told me things are speeding up and your message is going to speed up. He said,
When was that? I'm curious.
only like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Oh, that's so good. Well, we are at
Yes.
the age of Aquarius, which means everything is speeding up and old systems are breaking down. So, because you're creating something that's outside of the normal perspective, that makes great sense. I absolutely love that. So,
Peter
you
Michael Deeds is his name. He's in the
okay,
UK and he really knows this. I've had people tell me that I know 10 astrologers, none of them are at this guy's level. So this guy's really, you would enjoy the podcast, just what you said about Aquarius. You would enjoy this
absolutely.
podcast he did. He was phenomenal, really. So, and I guess listen, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt with the knowledge he had. So
Yes.
what you're saying could be right. Things could be speeding up.
You're just gonna follow that perspective. So, you literally have been from Abbey Road
Correct.
to the rooftop near 9/11. You've been recorded by the London Symphony. This is incredible. Just tell us about that experience and what you noticed awaken you just used the word, which is one of my favorite words, like waking people up. What have you noticed awaken in you as you stepped into some of those massive experiences?
Well, it's funny you brought up the London Symphony because um I had studied at New England Conservatory. I had a master's degree in jazz composition, and I studied with this guy who was a classical composer, jazz composer, and he was just an all around, monster musician type of guy, really. A monster is what I would call him. And one day he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I got this label, Master Musicians Collective." I said, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's great." And yeah, and here's some more information. I got symphonies that I want to do these blah blah blah, and I got the Bavarian Symphony, and I got this. He said, "Why don't you write something and we'll record it?" Because he's doing something. So he said, so he's rattling off these symphonies, and one of the symphonies is the London Symphony, and he just passes that, and then the London and the Bavarian and the blah blah, and I said, "Did you just say London Symphony Orchestra?" Yes, that project is going to be at Abbey Road Studio, and the Beatles studio in I was like, "Can I get on that? What are you talking about here? Can I like, what do I have to do?" So I did have to follow certain guidelines because there was a bunch of American composers that were chosen, like there were a collection of 11, I don't know. And they had to be, I had to follow specifications, this, that, and the other. But nevertheless, it was something you'll never forget. It was an experience you'll never forget. And it was before 9/11. It was not long before 9/11. I think it was in 1999 that took place. And yeah, so only 2 years later. But then, like you said, a rooftop on 9/11. Well, hey, I didn't know what I was getting myself into on that deal. I just got a phone call that morning from a photographer who had taken pictures of me on the 10th. So if you look at a CD called Jazz for Peace, you'll see a picture of me that was taken about 16 hours before those events by this woman. She had
Oh.
taken a picture of me because she was like, "Hey, I don't know, something's up with you. You might be famous someday. Can I take pictures of you and have them for my portfolio and I'll give you the negatives?" I said, "Sure. Free pictures? I'll sign up for that in a heartbeat." So she takes all these pictures of me. Then she's the one who called me from her day job down on Wall Street and tells me something's going on up there and maybe I should. I said, "Let me just take a look. It's probably somebody probably flew a kite into that, broke a window. Come on." But I went up there and oh my God. But then my life has kind of been like a movie ever since because, like I said, with Jazz for Peace, I was going to places that nobody's gone. Before that, I would go to, if I was lucky, and I was lucky, I'd go to Paris, I'd go to Tokyo, went to Tokyo a bunch of times. I go to these big city, London, I would this one, that one, a major place, Mecca places. And I really thought the world, that was like 90% of the world, and all the rest of this was 5%, 10% maybe at the most. And it really were 5%. The rest of the world is 95%. I mean, they're way bigger than us. We just don't know it because our mindset is just different. So now I'm going to places like Chaka in Africa for like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Um, Nobody's ever been there. I never talked to nobody. I don't know any Caucasian. I didn't see any Caucasian people. I saw one white person kind of on the way there in a supermarket. Like that was shocking. But
Wow.
there was no, I was in I was just there, you know what I mean? And again, Rwanda was the first place I went. Rwanda of all places, right? Good luck there. But people were taking me places and I'm like, "Phew, this is crazy." But then they told me at the end, they said, this guy, Kigami, they said, ruled, he said, if they had done anything to you, they'd have been sent tanks in there. I said,
Oh, for sure.
they needed you. Well, mainly because he wanted to open up Rwanda. See, here's the problem. I got 850 stories. All of them are like a movie. So I'm not
Mm,
telling you something that's like a movie. I got hundreds of these. But
so
he
good.
wanted to open up his country
Yeah.
to the rest of the world because that genocide had really slammed them down really hard. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with that place, by the way, for a long time. Nothing to do with that place because of that genocide situation. And 14 years had gone by, and he was like, enough already. He wants the world to take a look at this. And he had the world because Africans are really good at running. Some of them are really tall and they run like crazy. They chase animals in parts of Africa where I've been. They do.
Or
They
the animals
run.
chase them and they're running away.
Right. But
What
even
are they
when
all year?
they hunt on foot,
Yes, they
chase
do.
the animals for days,
Yes.
for days. So anyway, he had a world marathon. There's one behind me is one of these. That little one there is a posters all over here. So he had a world marathon. So runners all over the world came, and he had Jazz for Peace to come and do 2 concerts.
Mm,
So, like I said, he wanted to open every. So if something happened, that would have put the kibosh on the whole. Then
absolutely.
it'd have been a dark ages for another 14 years, for all we know.
I'm really curious though. So describe the feeling of playing at Abbey Road and then because everything has a frequency. What's the frequency of that versus you find yourself in this unique environment in Rwanda where it's more about the harmony and the peace and the people in such a different way. So what did you notice in those like two different scenarios as you experienced that?
Well, I mean, the crazy thing um about the Abbey Road situation is that when he gave me this opportunity, I was just about ready to get on a plane to go perform in Tokyo,
Mm,
where I was playing. Have you ever seen a movie called um, Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson?
yes.
You've heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That movie was filmed in the place I was going to after he
Wow.
told me that. Yeah. So he told me, so I go to this place because there's a place in Tokyo that has basically it's a gas and electric building, and they decided to put a lobby, make a hotel lobby on the 44th floor, the lobby, and then like 8 floors or whatever, how many floors of just skyline luxury, so with the most luxurious hotel rooms. And then at the very top, they had one of those top of the hub things, and it was called the New York Bar.
Mm,
So they needed a New York musician, I guess. They needed me to go. Anyway, I had worked for this other guy in Hong Kong, and this guy called me and said he tried to get me off this gig in Hong Kong because they wouldn't let me off this gig. They liked me at they like really liked me at this gig in Hong Kong. They really liked me over there. And that was crazy too, because that was the head of the Hang Seng Stock Exchange. His daughter had married the son of the head of gambling in Macau.
oh, wow.
Right? Now, these 2 guys are supposed to be polar opposites. Maybe they were the 2 biggest criminals, I don't know, but they were both big time. This guy in Macau was he this made, this guy made Las Vegas look like Romper Room. How big this island is, where gambling is. Gambling, prostitution, every vice you can think of is going on that island. You take a boat there from so he was running that. The other guy was running the stock exchange, which I think, you had to talk to this guy if you want to get on a stock exchange. So, this guy had it going on too. So these 2 guys and their kids married, and they gave him a club, and they brought me out there to play in that club. As they said, we want an artist. We don't want a piano. No, we don't want it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday, which I played a million times. No, we need an artist. So he said, so anyway, this guy's sending me now to over this other place with the top of the hub New York bar thing. And so like I said, the London Symphony thing took place in Japan because I was writing the symphony in the freaking hotel room. That if you ever watch that movie, you see the hotel room. That's where I was writing that symphony. So I had to write that in there, and then that ended up getting recorded in London while I was somewhere else.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
So fascinating.
so that's very different from,
Right.
let's say, well, I mean, if you want to say Rwanda, I've been to Africa 9 times. So you could say any of the African trips.
Anywhere.
It's very different because, see, here's the thing. After 9/11, I started to perform places where I was expressing myself as a human being
Mm,
when I wasn't expressing myself musically. See, before that, I really only expressed myself musically. People heard my music, that's it. But now they're seeing me, you know, you know what I mean, walk the walk of the words of my poem.
that's so beautifully said. So, one of your quotes that you shared with me is when we fill our souls up with creativity, artistry, and intelligence, we have a better chance at avoiding the behavior that leads to destruction. Unpack that for us, because I think as you were talking there, that's what jumped up for me was that quote. So unpack the perspective there.
Well, so what happened was 9/11 had hit, and when 9/11 hit, I had nothing to show for it but a poem. I called the poem "Jazz for Peace," and I when the country was closed for like 2 weeks, I had this giant, thing on my schedule. Was I was headlining at a jazz festival in Savannah, Georgia, and we didn't even know if there was gonna be a jazz festival. We probably just saying, "Well, what are you gonna do?" All of a sudden, they opened the country the day before that festival.
Mm.
And they opened the country, I went straight to we had to go straight to the airport, meaning it was just straight to the airport, literally right when they opened it. Just pack up and get down to the airport. And they sent me down there, and now I'm in front of 8,005 people. Nobody knows I have a poem, you know? Nobody knows. The musicians don't know. And I'm on stage with this poem that was the actual writing from 9/11, just the thing, the paper. And I just read the words to the people. And so now that resonated. Like when Sherman went south in the Civil War, the poem went north in this deal, worked its way all the way back to New York State, where I had a concert in upstate New York. And those promoters are like, what is going on? And the newspaper called me, the Troy Record, and they're like, can you recite that poem? And so now that I've recited the poem for them, now all of a sudden I'm in 2.0 land because now they want to know about me as a person. Well, who's this person who wrote this poem? You wrote these words. What about you? How do you feel about humanity? How do you feel about life? How do you feel about these words? What do you think? And all of a sudden, again, like I'm telling you, instead of me just talking about, the complexities of the music or simplicities of the music, I'm saying stuff like, hey, this is what I think we should do to fix our world. And I said that off the top of my head. I would have never remembered it in a million years that I said it, except he just put it in his article. He threw that in the article, and years later, and I mean years later, I'm getting phone calls like because we're Jazz for Peace is now doing this benefit concert series, and I get a call, let's say Portland, Oregon. Hey, we heard we were thinking about this same thing, and you guys already played in Portland, right? Can you send us some information? I'd be like, yeah, where's that? Probably on Google. And I go on Google, look for Portland. Can't find Portland, Oregon for these people, but I find somebody who's listed me in his top 50 famous quotes of all time. What is that? And I click on that and I see his list of quotes with, Tesla and Gandhi and, all these people, right? And I'm like, this is Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, this is crazy. Where did that come from? And I'm like looking around and now I see it's on a quote website, famous quote website. They just lifted it from that article. It's on every famous quote website. It's in Lithuanian. It's in translated. It's in all languages. It's omnipresent. So I'm like a one-hit wonder in the famous quote world. And now I have people again, you know, looking at me as two things. I'm a musician, but I'm also this person. So now I'm getting attention from both. So, I remember one of the first times it happened, I was in Croatia, and I'm in Croatia, and I'm at a festival in Croatia, a music festival called the Rijeka Jazz Festival, and there's all these other acts. And afterwards, there's the people. There was a thing for the people to talk to them, and everybody wanted to
Hmm.
talk to me, and they all wanted to ask about Jazz for Peace. The Croatian people, they wanted to ask about, and an article came out about Jazz for Peace in Croatian. I don't know what it says because I can't.
It's incredible that to experience how something that comes from your soul becomes a movement. That you become not just the jazz artist, but now you're also this humanity side that and in the end, that's what people are so curious about. We want to know what's underneath the story of everyone, right? And to give hope. I just was talking to my son today about how vital it is to feel hope, and I think something like Jazz for Peace has just given people that sense of hope. So now that's gone viral. That becomes a movement. It's more than just a poem on a piece of paper that originally started. It becomes hope for people. So it's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the empowerment enlightenment comes in.
Yeah.
Going back to your very first question, because now I feel like everybody has that in them, and I want to bring that out of everybody else, you know. And so, you know, I get to do it today because you're on a podcast asking me such important questions. So again, it's, you know, it's something we can, let's bring everybody into, let's bring everybody in on the, let's get everybody on the train.
Let's get everybody on the train wreck. I feel like that's a good moment for us to maybe have a special, incredible opportunity of you playing the piano for us.
Okay. This is a song that was recommended by our volunteers, probably because of the season, and it's called You Must Believe in Spring. When lonely feelings chew the meadows of your mind, just think if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Beneath the deepest snows, the secret of a rose is merely that it knows you must believe in spring. Just as a tree that tree, its leaves will reappear. It knows its emptiness is just the time of year. The frozen mountain dreams of April's melting streams. How crystal clear it seems you must believe in spring. You must believe in love and trust it's on its way. Just as a sleeping rose awaits the kiss of May. So in a world of snow, of things that come and go, where what you think you know you can't be certain of, you must believe in spray and war. You must believe in love and trust it's on its way. Just as a sleepy rose awaits the kiss of May, so in a world of snow, of things that come and go, where what you think you know you can't be certain of, you must believe in spring.
So beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. What a treat, what a treasure. I just need to know, is it snowing in Manhattan or is spring coming?
Spring is coming. It's been pretty cold though. It has been.
I know, it snowed here today.
Did it really? I didn't
It
know
just
that.
sprinkled in the sky, and I was like, "Hang on
Okay.
a second here." So, y that couldn't have been more fitting for how much we need spring to actually come our way, Rick.
Yeah, we must believe in it. I'll
Oh,
tell you, it was, there's certain little errands that I just wasn't doing because I was like, it's so dreary out. Maybe tomorrow, and then tomorrow will
maybe.
come and it'll be another kind of a cold and dreary sort of situation. But
Mhm.
in New York, you can't take anything for granted because all of a sudden it can get so hot in the summers and all that
Oh,
stuff.
I know, here too. We have I think our climate is super similar, Toronto and New York for sure.
Mhm.
As you were playing, it really brought out to me that theme of music connects humanity. Music takes away all of the who are you? What do you do? And you really step into that purest form of the human being side of things, which is really what, we're trying to get to in general, right? So, how have you seen, or I mean, you have such great stories. What's a story of where you've seen unity come from the experiences of Jazz for Peace where you wouldn't expect unity?
You know, uh, some of the first concerts I did were for the families of 9/11,
Mm,
and to give them, and I noticed that they had a very interesting perspective on things, and maybe the world should listen to these family members because they lost loved ones and they were consumed by the situation, thinking about it all the time. And then as I continued on with my series, one day I showed up at a concert and I got a letter from the mayor at that time, who was Michael Bloomberg, saying how much he loves Jazz for Peace, he loves what I'm doing, and that was a concert to support the victims of the Holocaust. And I started working with them, and then the next thing you know, I was playing with Palestinians and Israelis. Music, and I brought them together at the United Nations, and then I started working with Palestinians and Israeli and all the stuff. And people now, if they are interested, they can ask me and I'll tell them, "Hey, this person has an extraordinary perspective." And I'll be honest with you, from my working with the Holocaust system, they have an extraordinary perspective. They're very, very much against that which they were the victims of. And I would say, hear them out. They were the victims of a Holocaust. Why not give them a voice and why not listen to them if you want to solve a problem?
yeah. I one of my favorite perspectives, which I can't give someone credit because 'cause I'm not sure who said it, is when you get up close to people, they're all beautiful.
Correct.
Not love them when you step in close, right? So I feel like Jazz for Peace is like a conduit for that type of perspective and opportunity for people to just walk alongside each other in the support of peace. And you're doing great work. I just on behalf of another human being and everyone listening, thank you. Thank you for investing time with us today. Thank you for sharing your gifts and your stories. It's just been incredible, just a beautiful conversation filled with harmony, truth, vision, and I think Rick just, like, teaching people what's possible when we actually step into our soul and create from that place. So, I guess just before we say goodbye, do you have any we'd wanna definitely drive people to jazzforpeace.org, as you've mentioned, but is there anything else you wanna share as a
Well,
final perspective?
since you're in Toronto, I would love, I mean, I've been to this Roy Thompson Hall as a just a musician. I'd love to see a day where Roy Thompson Hall could have Jazz for Peace or something like that, where we help an outstanding cause and we make the community better. And the music that we play is doesn't just end when the concert's over, but it lives on through the efforts that were made to help, outstanding causes in the Toronto area or in
Mm.
Canada as a whole, or even in a global mission. So that's the kind of thing. And we have a new video that just came out, and it's called Jazz for Peace Funding Explained, easy as ABC. But I think you can go to Google search, just click on that search and type in Jazz for Peace Funding Explained, and you'll get to that. There's another one the old one is still good. It's called How to Get Funds from Jazz for Peace. But like I said, this brand new one, we'd love to hear your feedback. People watching your show, go there, check it out, and let us know your feedback and stuff.
Amazing. We'll put the link in the show notes for that as well.
Yeah,
And
you can always send an
I
email, by the way, to info@jazzforpeace.org.
Beautiful. And I happen to do some work for the team at Roy Massey Thompson Hall. And so I happen to know some people there. So we'll definitely send this along and make sure that they hear this and make sure they know the story and see the video. And, we've thrown it out to the universe now. So let's let it do its work.
That's a wonderful idea, Lori. Really appreciate that. Fantastic.
Thanks for being here, Rick. You're a treasure.
My pleasure.